Hey there, welcome to the Winx Forever podcast. I'm Lola, creator, host, and lifelong Winx fan. I'm taking a deep dive into the very cool universe of Winx Club. So whether you've been a Winx fan since 2004, like myself, or you vaguely remember it from your childhood, or even if you're being introduced to it for the first time, I want to say welcome. This is the Winx Forever podcast. Hello, fairy friends. Welcome back to the Winx Forever podcast. I am your host, Lola Valentine. It has been quite the year for Winx Club fans as we all celebrated 20 years of magic together, and I wanted to create a series of podcast episodes that kind of encapsulated that feeling and go back and look at the past 20 years of Winx Club and really dive into each Winx Club era. And to do that, it's going to have to be several episodes because, 20 years is a long time and there's a lot that happened in those 20 years that I would like to cover. In the summer of 2024, I had the immense pleasure of giving an abridged version of this talk at MomoCon in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am super excited to get to share it with you now in a deep dive format. So get ready because we have a lot to cover. So in this podcast series, we're going to explore the timeline of the Winx Club franchise over the last 20 years. We'll also be taking a look at what it is about Winx Club that has enchanted its fans for all of that time, as well as take a look into our crystal ball and see if we can predict what the future of Winx Club will look like over the next 20 years. But if you are just now joining the podcast for the very first time and are like, who is this person? Hi, welcome. I'm super glad you've joined us, especially for this series of episodes. My name is Lola Valentine, and I am the creator and host of the Winx Forever podcast. I've been watching Winx Club since it aired here in the United States on the Saturday morning cartoon block known as the Fox Box in 2004. Since then, I've remained an active member of the Winx Club fandom, participating in various forums over the years. I was even a part of the Winx Club English Forum magazine staff, and we wrote and distributed a virtual magazine created by fans for fans that would be published monthly to the official winxclub.com website back in the day. Since I started my podcast, I have had the pleasure of reconnecting with old fairy friends as well as making new ones, and was even voted the most influential Winxer in the Winx Club Twitter Awards because, yes, that is a real thing. So to talk about the past 20 years of Winx Club, we first have to know what Winx Club is. If you're just joining and you are new here and you don't know what Winx is, Winx Club is an Italian animated series following the life and adventures of 6 fairy friends who attend a magic school in a parallel magic pocket dimension. Over the last 20 years, Winx Club has aired in over 150 countries with 8 series, 4 television specials, 2 spin-off series, 3 feature-length films, and a live-action young adult Netflix adaptation, but we will get to these in a bit. But what is it about Winx Club that has kept all of us around for so long? Like, why are we still talking about Winx Club 20 years later? Some fans might tell you that it's the cohesive storytelling in the first 3 seasons and first movie, like the serialized type of content that we really hadn't seen in a show made for children ages 8 to 12, or even the diverse characters that we grow to know and love in the series. Others might tell you it's the overall aesthetic of the show, this unique mix of fantasy and sci-fi that we hadn't really seen in a children's television series yet, and also the early 2000s fashion that encapsulates the time period perfectly. For many fans, it's the fandom. This beautiful, creative, unique group of fairy friends all across the globe coming together over the commonality of Winx Club. As a fan, there is something so inviting about the world of Winx Club that keeps me personally inspired to create projects for the fandom to enjoy together. Individually, these components probably aren't compelling enough reason to follow a franchise for 20 years, but together, it's a powerful bond that the Winx Club has formed with fans across the world. So we've talked about what Winx Club is. We've talked about why Winx Club is. So let's talk about the timeline of Winx Club. Looking at the overview of the last 20 years of Winx Club, I have broken it up into a timeline of eras because thank you, Taylor Swift. So we start in the development years. This is going to be when Iginio Straffi forms Rainbow, the production company that creates Winx Club, and when he begins development on the first 2 pilots for the Winx Club series. Then we move into the golden era of Winx Club. This is going to be probably what American fans are most familiar with. Then we get into the classical era, which most casual American fans might not be as familiar with because this is going to be the era in between when Winx Club wasn't really around in America because of licensing issues. So 4Kids TV lost the licensing issue, and then Nickelodeon picks it up in the Nickelodeon era. Yes, the one with Ariana Grande in it. We will get to that, I promise. Following the Nickelodeon era, we get the Netflix era. This is when the spin-off series, The World of Winx, is premiered on Netflix, and Netflix is a co-producer of the show and gets canceled after 2 seasons, as well as the Netflix adaptation, Fate the Winx Saga. Now, even though season 8 is nestled in to this era, since there are predominantly co-produced Netflix series in this era, it's the Netflix era. And then finally, we will get to the Winx Club Renaissance, which is what we are kind of experiencing now. And I'm very excited to dive into all of the things, including the Winx Club reboot. You're listening to the Winx Forever podcast. So we are going to start our journey through the Winx Club timeline with the development years, the development era, if you will. This spans from the founding of Rainbow by Iginio Straffi in 1995 and goes right up until the final iteration of the pilot series in 2003 with Winx Just Fairies. Iginio began his journey in the entertainment industry while still attending university, working with Milan's premier comic publisher, Sergio Bonelli Editori. From there, his reputation as a cartoonist spread across Europe's borders, securing him work from leading studios in France and Luxembourg. However, his true breakthrough was in 1995 when he returned to Italy and established Rainbow in his hometown of the Marche region, starting the history of Italy's largest animation studio. From 1999 to 2000, we have the Magic Bloom pilot development. It was then that Iginio began his first iteration of a pilot that would eventually become known as Winx Club, titled Magic Bloom. Straffi compared his original premise to a sort of Oxford-Cambridge rivalry in a magical dimension. In expanding the concept, Iginio drew his inspiration from Japanese manga and the works of Italian comic book writer and publisher Sergio Bonelli. Iginio tells writer Chiara Galavati in an online interview, quote, "For a long time, I had in mind a women's story with 2 rival colleges involved in cases of magic and other mysteries. When, in the year 2000, the Harry Potter books were popular all over the world and people started thinking about a film about the Wizard of Hogwarts, I came up with the idea of transforming colleges into schools for aspiring fairies and witches, a sort of Cambridge rivalry in a magical dimension in which female students compete for the best grades with spells. This variant, he says, was also popular with Rye, quote, which gave us the initial contract to make the trailers, but also suggested the inclusion of an institute for children in the story. And so the Winx format was also enriched with a specialization school for magicians. End quote. So we can probably thank Rye Fiction for the inclusion of our favorite heroes and specialists. As the first iteration of Winx, you might imagine the changes the final Winx Club show underwent in relation to its 1990s predecessor, Magic Bloom. For example, the character we know as Stella at the time was known as Sasha, with a different look to her civilian outfit as well as her fairy transformation. Tekna was known as Tina in the Magic Bloom pilot and carried over some of the same technical styled bodysuit designs, helmet and all, that we see in the final version of Tekna's design in Winx Club. The fairy of music that we know as Musa was called Lisa in the Magic Bloom pilot and had a cute short green pixie cut hairstyle. Her fairy transformation also seemed to resemble that of a European bard, and she carried a wand to perform her magic spells. Flora's character design in the Magic Bloom pilot was by far and away the closest to her final iteration for Winx Club, although she sported a lavender hair color and large round glasses for her civilian look. Bloom's character design changed quite a bit from her Magic Bloom days, although her fiery red hair and blue-themed ensembles remained a core part of her design. During a 12-month development period that included animation tests, character studies, and market surveys, the production of Magic Bloom caught the attention of one Rye Fiction, the Italian production company owned and operated by Radio Televisions Italia, otherwise known as RAI or Rye in the fandom, the national broadcasting company of Italy. Rye Fiction would go on to pay for 25% of the production cost in exchange for Italian broadcast rights and a share of the series' revenue over 15 years. However, after holding screen tests of the pilot, Straffi was ultimately unhappy with the audience's reception of the pilot. The actual animation style of the pilot was heavily influenced by the Japanese cartoons of the early 90s, making the outfits and designs feel dated even for 1999 to 2000. In an interview with Rye Scola from 2013, Iginio explains how the decision to scrap the work put into Magic Bloom ultimately helped them arrive at the original art style and story that we know as Winx today. He says, quote, "Perhaps if we hadn't thrown away a few hundreds of thousands of euros already invested into the first episode, today we wouldn't be here." In the same interview with Rye Scola, Iginio goes on to attribute the success of Winx Club today to the collaborators with whom they consulted. Rainbow not only brought in fashion designers to help Iginio bring his Fairies fashion into the 21st century, but also psychologists who dealt with trends in developmental psychology impacting the overall story he wanted to create for the youths of the early 2000s. You're listening to the Winx Forever podcast. If you're enjoying this episode of the Winx Forever podcast, be sure to follow the show on your preferred streaming platform so that you're notified when new episodes are dropped. Hello, fairy friends, and happy 20 years of Winx Club. I'm Lola Valentine, and I am happy to say that the biggest Winx Club fan project to date is now available for free at magicalmemorieszine.com. It is 354 pages of pure nostalgic Winx fun, and I hope that you check it out. We had a blast making it. It took us over a year to plan it and gather Fan stories from across the world, your stories from across the world of growing up with Winx Club over the past 20 years. And it's just been such an honor to get to create this love letter for the fandom. So thanks for being a Winx fan, and we hope that you enjoy the Magical Memories fanzine. Download it now for free on magicalmemorieszine.com. And now back to the show. 2001 to 2003 gives us Winx Just Fairies pilot development. In 2001, Iginio's reimagination of Magic Bloom pilot would lead Rainbow to the production of the true Winx Club pilot, Winx Just Fairies. Though very little is known about this pilot produced between Magic Bloom and the final version we see debuted in 2004, there are still glimpses into what this Winx Just Fairies pilot would have looked like, with early animations remaining in some dubs. We may also see these clips in the American English version of the opening credits in the show's first 3 seasons produced by 4Kids Entertainment. In the 4Kids Entertainment dub of Winx Club's opening credits, we clearly see the updated animations and character designs of the fairies, heroes, villains, and creatures of the show that ultimately made it into the show we know and love today. The new name of the series, Winx, was derived from the English word wings. Straffi's aim was to appeal to both genders, including action sequences designed for male viewers and fashion elements for female viewers. The process of restyling Winx Just Fairies began in 2002, and by late 2003, Rainbow began delivering the episodes to distributors. At the October 2003 MCAP event, Rainbow screened the show's first episode to international companies. By October of 2003, 4Kids Entertainment acquired the US broadcast rights for the first season of Winx Club. It was reported on Variety.com that the 4Kids Entertainment Group acquired these rights to broadcast it to the Fox Box, which would later be renamed to 4Kids TV, their Saturday morning cartoon block. The article also stated that the addition of Winx to their Saturday morning lineup was the first shift 4Kids had made from its boy-centric slate of cartoons. You're listening to the Winx Forever podcast. If you're enjoying this episode of the Winx Forever podcast, be sure to follow the show on your preferred streaming platform so that you're notified when new episodes are dropped. And that is all I have for the development years of Winx Club. The next episode of this 20 Years of Magic series, we will dive into the golden era of Winx Club, probably the best era of Winx Club, but we'll get into that. If there's anything that I missed in this timeline overview, please let me know in the comments below, or you can even send me a message via myspeakpipe.com. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what your thoughts are on Magic Bloom, on Winx Just Fairies. Let me know in all of the avenues that you can reach me. I also have a Discord. You can hit me up there. Would love to chat with you about Winx Club in every capacity. So yeah. What I find absolutely interesting is how long Iginio took to develop Winx Club. And after spending so much money and so much investors' money, scrapping it and having the creative freedom to do that, knowing that he was so close and he just wasn't there yet, and taking the time and being patient and ultimately coming to something that has touched the lives of so many people across the globe. And I think that that is just really lovely. And I know that Iginio is a creative at heart. I know that it means the world to him to have created something that means something so special to so many people. And it's really cool. And it really is just like a lesson in the creative process. You know, you can't rush it. You know when it's right. And for him, you know, seeing how Magic Bloom was, you know, kind of panning out and him not being satisfied with it and kind of going back to the drawing board. I mean, that takes a lot of courage. And it's really cool that he had the support that he did to do that. And I really admire that about Iginio Straffi. So shout out to Iginio listening to the creative process in his heart to give us the fairies that we know and love today. So that is it for this episode, guys. I know it's a short one, but I promise there is so much more to come. We have so much ground to cover for this series, 20 Years of Magic. I hope that you will tune into the next one because we have so much to cover. Until next time, I am Lola Valentine, and this is the Winx Forever Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the Winx Forever Podcast, be sure to follow on your preferred streaming platform so that you're notified when new episodes are released. The theme for the Winx Forever Podcast is the song She Makes Magic by Big Wild.